Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the third day of the THESIS Summit. We will start in a few minutes, but just wait for the other participants to join. So welcome to some new participants. You are at the third day of the THESIS Summit, and the next hour we will have the EU session. We just wait a few minutes for the other participants to join. So welcome everybody to the third day of the THESIS Summit. I hope you enjoyed the first 2 days for the ones who did. And for the new ones, we have an interesting program again today. I think for 3-4 hours, we have a lot of different subjects that we'll discuss today. But we start with a session about what's happening in Europe. So on the screen, you can see the 3 people that are going to present today. So it's Henk Westhoek from DG Sante, Julia Chu from Walgreens Boots Alliance, and I will do the last presentation. Henk will tell you more about what's happening in Brussels, as we call it in Europe. So what are the plans from the European Commission around sustainability, and more in particular, sustainability measurement? And after that, Julia will tell about the implementation of THESIS tools at Walgreens Boots Alliance. And I will close the session with a presentation about implementation of THESIS tools in the Netherlands. But before I go into details about the program, I would like to share some practical issues with you. So we might be with a big group, and that means that everybody is muted. We stimulate interaction, however, so please use the chat function to ask any questions or to give comments. We will try to ask your questions to the speakers if there's time enough. If not, we'll try to answer them afterwards. The session will be recorded, so you can also make it available to colleagues if you enjoyed it. And also the slides that we use during this meeting will be shared after the meeting. I think that's all about the practical issues. And then I would like to ask Jack van der Vorst to kick off this meeting. So Jack is Director of the Social Sciences at Wageningen University and Research. And he's also a board member of the Sustainability Consortium for several years. So Jack, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Koen, for this introduction, and welcome everybody to this session. In the fall of this year, it's already 10 years ago that we organized the official kickoff of the European office of TSC. And at that moment, the current Queen of the Netherlands, Maxima, opened our office, and we had about 350 people coming together in The Hague. And huge progress has been made in these 10 years. And it was a pleasure for Wageningen University and Research to be able to contribute to that. During the last years, I've also been more actively involved myself through my role as board member of TSC. And it's really exciting to be part of that board, as it brings together science, nonprofit and business partners, working together on developing practical tools, methods and ways of working to create more sustainable products for a more sustainable planet. And during these 10 years that we led the European office, the urgency of act on sustainability has, however, not declined. Sustainability is now even more prominent on the agenda of the business community than it was 10 years ago. And the COVID epidemic has only enforced that. During the last years, global governments start becoming more active and proactive on sustainability for the business community through governance, developing reporting standards and regulations. And especially on European level, a lot is happening which requires extra activities from those partners. And it's great that my colleague Henk Westhoek will update us about that. All these developments will also lead to new opportunities for TSC. And I feel confident that we can play a prominent role in that in the next decade, together with all partners involved. So once again, thank you for participation. And with that, I would like to give the floor back to Koen.
So thank you, Jack, for those kind words. And then it's nearly time to move to the first speaker. But before I do that, I would like to have a first poll. So in your opening screen, you can see on the right hand different tabs, and one of the tabs is poll. And you see a first question there available. And I would like to ask you to answer that first question. So it's about your background, so that we get a bit of an impression of the attendance of this session and the backgrounds of the people that are attending. So Emil, can you make the poll available?
I think the poll is available. Then you all are able to see the question. What is your professional background? And then you see green button, vote, where you can vote.
Okay, thank you, Emil. And we see that until now, exactly half of the attendants have a business background, a quarter research consultancy background, and then about 20% NGO, and also a small participation from governments. And the business number is going a bit down in comparison with the research, but it's rather stable now. So I think that's about the final outcome of this poll. So thank you for voting. So you know who your fellow participants are. And then we move to our first speaker. So our first speaker is Henk Westhoek. Henk currently works as policy officer for DG Sante in Brussels, the European Commission. And Henk has more than 30 years experience on sustainability of food and agriculture. He worked most of his life for the Dutch Environment Assessment Agency and will work there again in a few weeks' time. And most of his time he spent there as program manager, advising Dutch government on all kinds of environmental issues. Now, Henk is going to update us about all the policy developments happening in Brussels. So, Henk, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Koen, and it's an honor to be with you today and to be able to present the state of play around the Farm to Fork strategy. I will present my screen, then I have to.
So we can see your slides, but not yet in presentation mode.
I know. I'm working on it. There we are. Okay, thank you very much again for the opportunity. And as I said, I will brief you on the state of play about legal, but also voluntary initiatives being part of the Farm to Fork strategy. Well, the Farm to Fork strategy is part of the European Green Deal. It was adopted almost a year ago. And since then, a lot has happened in terms of implementation of the Farm to Fork strategy. And just to say that within the European Green Deal, there are many initiatives. So there are also many parallel initiatives, some of them also touching upon areas of the Farm to Fork strategy. Just to give an example, today the Zero Pollution Action Plan was presented, which also touches upon issues like pesticide use, but also ammonia emissions from farming. So there are many initiatives along the way. The objectives of the Farm to Fork strategy are a fair, healthy, and environmentally friendly food system. So it's sustainability is here perceived more broadly, that not only the environmental side, but also the social and economic dimension are very important of the Farm to Fork strategy. And it's the Farm to Fork strategy takes an integrated food system approach. That means that it does not only address, for example, farmers and fishers, but it tries to address all actors in the food chain. And they almost play their role to achieve the sustainability of the food chain, as you're all aware, of course. Well, currently we are in the implementation phase of the Farm to Fork strategy. It has an action plan with 27 actions, most of them legislative actions, and the delivery date of the actions, they differ from the year 2020. Some actions have already been completed up to the year 2024. And one of the completed actions is, for example, the Organic Action Plan to stimulate the consumption of organic products within the EU. Well, like I said, the Farm to Fork strategy addresses many aspects of sustainability, social, environmental, and also economic sustainability. And there are actions targeted at all these elements of sustainability. And also, of course, these elements have implications, for example, for labeling, because if you want to address something around social, it might also be that you want to show this on the label, and also on the health side, of course, there are important elements to be addressed in terms of labeling. And with the coming slides, I will walk you through the various actions of the Farm to Fork strategy. So there are actions targeted at farming and fishing level. Well, of course, an important element of the farming policy is the Common Agricultural Policy. The Commission has put forward a proposal for this Common Agricultural Policy, which is currently being discussed with the European Parliament and the EU Council. The proposal tries to better target the Common Agricultural support, because, for example, higher support for small and medium-sized farms, but also higher green ambitions and also more output-oriented way of delivery model, and it tries to respond to societal demands on food and health, including nutritious and sustainable food, food waste, and animal welfare. So it tries to address all the 9 objectives as identified in the Common Agricultural Policy. And to have a better connection also with the Farm to Fork strategy, the Commission has published recommendations for every country, for every member state, which they should take into account in the national strategic plans. And the national strategic plans are the way of implementing actually the common agriculture policy. And then there are more actions also in the Farm to Fork strategy to ensure a sustainable food production. One of them is a revision of the existing animal welfare legislation, including provisions on transport and slaughter. Of course, sustainable use of pesticides is very important. There's an aspirational target in the Farm to Fork strategy to reduce pesticide use by 50% by the year 2030. There's also a proposal, also very relevant, I would say, for monitoring and also for measuring environmental impact. That is a proposal for farm sustainability data network, which could also have advice and benchmarking on sustainable farming practices. Maybe it's nice to know that this initiative is also an offspring, you could say, from the EU Flint project, which was guided by the Wageningen Economic Research Institutes. Like I said, there's an action plan for the organic sector, and there will be an action plan for integrated nutrient management. Then there are also actions at the level of consumers and also of other actors in the food system, like retailers and food companies. And the two most important ones, I dare to say, are a legislative framework for sustainable food system, which is quite a really comprehensive approach towards sustainability in food systems, which has to be ready by the year 2023. But I will elaborate a little bit more on that in the coming slides. And the second one, I also elaborate more on that in the coming slides, are a code of conduct for responsible business and marketing conduct. Then there are actions to improve a corporate governance framework. So it's more like this is not a specific Farm to Fork action, but a general action from the Commission for all businesses, not only for food businesses, but to enhance the corporate governance with all kinds of requirements for board members and for business operations. There will be criteria for sustainable food procurement. There will be a review of the EU school scheme. There will also be a proposal for sustainable food labeling framework to empower consumers to make sustainable food choices. And here again, sustainability is broader than environmental sustainability. It will also encompass, for example, aspects like animal welfare, social dimension, and also the health dimension. And the Commission will also look to harmonize the voluntary green claims. I'll also come back to that later. There will also be a proposal for a harmonized mandatory front of package nutrition label to enable consumers to make healthy and conscious food choices. An example of such a scheme is the famous Nutri-Score scheme, but the Commission is still evaluating which scheme is best for this front of package nutrition labeling. And finally, there will be a revision of EU standards for agriculture, fishery, and agriculture products. Like I said, I want to elaborate a little bit on the policy, on the policy initiative to have a legislative framework for sustainable food system. But the Commission deemed it necessary because currently there is no dedicated EU framework law on food sustainability. You could compare it a little bit with the general food law, which has a comprehensive and integrated approach towards food safety. And from that perspective, we want to extend it to cover really all sustainability aspects of food. So it will address different pieces of legislation, for example, with regards to pesticides, GMOs, food waste, and the common agriculture and fisheries policy, so that all these policies will take a more integrated perspective and, on food and on sustainable food consumption and food production within the EU. So the goal of this framework is to have an integrated approach to and to accelerate and facilitate the transition towards a sustainable food system, and to ensure that all foods placed on the EU markets become increasingly sustainable, to promote policy coherence at the EU, but also at national level, to mainstream sustainability in all food-related policies, and to strengthen the resilience of food system and progressively raise sustainability standards. Well, like I said, this is a legislative proposal, so that will mean that the Commission will follow the normal procedure for legislative proposals, so it will take time before the proposal will be ready. Hopefully this summer there will be the inception impact assessment ready for consultation, so then stakeholders and everybody, the general public as well, can respond to this as a first step in the stakeholder consultation. And then the Commission will develop the proposal together with an impact assessment, and then it will be put forward in the year 2023 to the co-legislators for final adoption. Then secondly, is a non-legislative proposal, a voluntary initiative to have being the code of conduct. This will be an industry code, and there we want to engage the stakeholders to take action to promote sustainable production and marketing practices to arrive at the situation of sustainable production and also sustainable consumption. So it will be the idea to improve the environmental and social performance, mainly targeted at what we call the middle chain actors, so the food manufacturing companies, and but also the food service, food hospitality, and the retail sector. And it will have two components, so one of more general components for all actors in the food system, and a second component where individual companies can make can put forward concrete commitments to improve sustainability. And we're currently working very hard on this code of conduct. We have actually daily meetings for this, and we hope to have the text ready by the end of this month already. And as it is a voluntary initiative, it can be adopted quite soon, of course, and actions can be taken quite soon. So hopefully it will really be effective already in the year 2022. Within this code of conduct, we have three thematic areas. One is healthy and sustainable consumption patterns. The second one are sustainable internal processes of food businesses. And the third one is improving the sustainability of the whole food value chain, so including farming and fishing practices. And of course, therefore, we need instruments like life cycle analysis and product environmental footprints, etc. I will skip this slide because actually I've covered it most. Then there's also from our colleagues from DG Environment, the Green Claims Initiative, which has the intention to have reliable and comparable and verifiable information to consumers. So that will mean that companies should be able to substantiate green claims using a standard methodology to assess the environmental impact using the product environmental footprints methods, for example. And the scheduled adoption is already mid-2021. Then for deforestation and forest deforestation, there's also an action also announced in the Farm to Fork strategy, but also, of course, in the biodiversity strategy, in order to minimize the risk that products are placed on the EU markets that are associated with deforestation and forest degradation. And therefore, the idea is that, that in the end, there will be measures to prevent that products which are associated with areas of deforestation are put on the European markets. And of course, this has to be compatible with WTO rules and also looking at implementability and cost efficiency. But like I said, it will be adopted already quite soon. Then there is an initiative from our colleagues from DG Just on sustainable corporate governance, and also not fully decided yet. So these are not also still in the preparatory phase, but also there, this will be announced already the second quarter of the year 2021. And this will have two main elements. One is a duty for directors to better integrate sustainability consideration into corporate strategies. And there is due diligence obligations for companies to make sure that companies have to identify and prevent and address and mitigate adverse effects on social and human rights and also on the environment, both in their own operations, but also looking at the whole food value chain or the value chain in general for other companies. And at last, there's the green finance and investments. Therefore, the two main instruments are the renewed sustainable finance strategy and also the corporate sustainability reporting directive, which is follow-up of the non-financial reporting directive, which has been adopted already this month. So a lot of is going on, but especially in the food sector, still a lot of has to happen. So I'm looking also forward to the discussion with you, how, for example, TSC could enable and assist and support the transition to a sustainable food system. Because, well, in the end, it's down to us. It's not only the Commission, of course, which can do this, but a lot of players in the food system have to act. So we are really looking forward to its collaboration. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Henk, for this presentation. It's really a long list of initiatives, and so it's nice to have a good overview of everything what is happening. Yeah, it's a great performance that you can finish your presentation in such a short time, taking all those different initiatives of the Commission into account. We had several questions from the audience, and two of them were addressing more or less the same issue. That is because of those policies, there are a lot of demands for the production in Europe. Is there also a way to address imports from outside Europe? So is there also a way to guarantee that the imports that we have also have a minimum sustainability level and do not compete in a dishonest way with production in Europe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand the question. Yes, there are several ways, but of course, from the Europe, you have to respect also current trade agreements and other agreements with third countries. But like, for example, within the case of deforestation, there will be additional requirements for imported products because the main risk, of course, for deforestation are outside Europe. And other domains, we still have to see how we can best do this. But also, for example, through a more voluntary approach, like the code of conduct, you can also stimulate the demand for products which are produced under higher standards, either higher environmental standards or social standards. Not necessarily only from the European Union territory, of course. I mean, if the products from outside the European territory comply with the same standards, that's fine as well. But the issue is more to raise in general way the sustainability standards of products. So it's not only to favor European products, but the idea is to favor sustainably produced products.
Thank you.
And well, more concrete, I mean, there are, of course, especially for pesticides, there are the maximum levels tolerated levels for pesticides. Also, for some issues, we have specific regulations, of course.
Yeah, but that's just the ones that already exist, but are not new from the farm to fork. Yeah. Okay.
And maybe, sorry, to add on that, to be complete, I mean, also in new bilateral trade agreements, of course, it will also be a point of discussion.
Okay. Then we have another question around the product environmental footprint. In earlier summits and TSC meetings, a lot of discussions have been around the product environmental footprint, so the LCA standard that the European Commission is developing. How does that relate to all the plans that you presented? So is it that PEF is used in some of those plans, or has there still been have the decisions still to be made?
I'd like to say that I'm not completely up to date with all the discussions around the PEF, of course, this because it's our colleagues from DG Environment who are in charge of this, but of course where possible and where relevant, we will use the PEF approach. Like for example, like explained in the green claims approach, the PEF will play a role. And also in other initiatives, we're also developing and sustainable labeling initiative. And also there, of course, the PEF will play a role. But again, well, PEF does not cover all aspects of even of not of environmental sustainability. For example, local biodiversity and some other aspects are not completely covered, if I understand correctly, from by the current PEF. And also issues like animal welfare and social dimensions are, of course, not covered by the PEF. So the sustainability labeling framework will be broader, of course, than the PEF, but certainly the PEF will play a major role.
Okay. That may be a difficult question to answer for you, but what do you think, what measure will have the most impact? Because I have seen some calculations where they say that the food production in Europe might even decrease significantly, and it could even lead to hunger on a global scale. Could you give your opinion on which goal or which plan will most significantly impact the European food supply chains?
It's indeed a difficult question. Also because, well, with the Farm to Fork strategy, the Commission has taken an integrated approach towards the sustainable food system. So it's not only about the environmental impact and the food production within Europe, but also about health and healthier diets and more sustainable diets. So there are indeed a number of measures in the Farm to Fork strategy, or a number of aspirational targets, which might lead to some reduction of food production within the EU. On the other hand, of course, there's also the aspiration or the ambition to shift diets towards diets with lower environmental footprint, but also to reduce food waste and loss. So there are also actions on the demand side to reduce the food demand. So and together this should more or less balance. So that would mean that the net position of EU as an importer of food or exporter of food would not change much, because of actions are taken both on the demand side as well as on the consumption side. But it's hard to say. It's also depending on the type of company you have, of course, how what measure will affect you most. I mean, if you have a company, of course, producing only less healthy products, let's say so, which are in the E category of the Nutri-Score, then of course the health measures within the Farm to Fork might have the largest impact. If you are producing food mainly from areas with deforestation, that part might have the largest impact. If you are a local company, then there are certain other elements which have a more impact. So it depends very much, I think, to which aspects you look and what kind of company business you have, where the effect will be the largest. But just to finalize, I think we should also see it very much from a positive perspective. I mean, if we do it well with the Farm to Fork strategy and with the transition towards a sustainable European food system, I think there is a lot of win for all of the players within the food system, and also for consumers and also for farmers. I mean, if farmers are paying a proper price for sustainable products, then they have a good living and also a sustainable living. For consumers, if the access to healthy and sustainable food becomes better and also more affordable, then also consumers will benefit from it. So all in all, I think it's a very positive strategy and also a positive transformation.
Thank you. Then a last question before we move to the next speaker. There is a specific question around the relation with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. The relation, if it will be used for the legislative framework, but maybe you could answer it also a bit broader. So what is the relation with the SDGs of all those plans that are running?
That's a good question, but there's a clear relation. Of course, it's not spelled out in every sentence in the Farm to Fork strategy, but of course the Farm to Fork strategy should definitely contribute to reaching the SDGs, and also indeed in the legislative framework for sustainable food systems. Well, one of the objectives will be indeed to contribute or even to reach the sustainable development goals, for example, also with regards to food waste and food loss, but also in terms of sustainable production, terrestrial ecosystems, marine ecosystems, but also, of course, a healthy and viable farm economy. Well, all aspects will have to be covered, of course, by this legislative proposal, and this will be also all in line with the SDGs.
Okay. With that, I would like to thank you, Henk. Again, it's very impressive that you're still able to get a good overview and describe it very clearly to the audience on all the things that are happening. A lot of decisions still have to be made, so we'll keep a close eye on it and see what will happen in the coming years. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
Then before we move to the next speaker, I would ask you to answer a second poll question. So again, please go to the poll step, and there you can find a second question. And this question is: should the EU oblige sustainability reporting on the company level by EU companies? And we have 4 different response options. Yes, that should be done, and indicators and methodology should be described by the European Commission. Yes, it should be done, but the Commission should just prescribe what kind of indicators that could be used. Or yes, it should be done, but leave it to the companies which indicators and methodology. And the last option is no, reporting should be voluntary. So could you please give your preference? And we already see some first results where the far majority wants that European Commission oblige sustainability reporting, and only 30% no. And nearly half of the respondents have a preference to refer to an industry standard, and about 30% has a preference for a system where the European Commission will define indicators and methodology. And I think that's quite stable now. So yeah, nearly 90% wants that the Commission oblige sustainability reporting. Then we'll move to the next question. It's the same kind of question, but then on product or product category level. So should the EU also oblige reporting on product or product category level? And again, the same categories. Should the EU define it? Industry standards, leave it open, or only voluntary reporting? And here we see that there is a larger group that prefers no reporting, but still about 70% or even 80%, still 70% would like it that the EU would oblige also reporting on product or product category level. And about 1/3 industry standards, and 1/3 that the Commission would define indicators and methodology. Okay, thank you for your votes. Interesting results. And then we move to the second subject of today. And the second subject is about the work that is done by THC and its members and users in Europe, and more specific, the use of the THC tools in Europe. And I will share my screen to show some slides. So THC provides 3 different type of activities. The first one, and also the one that we started with, is measurement and reporting, with 2 important tools, THESIS and commodity mapping. The second group of activities is the Leadership Institute, where we support our members to improve the leadership on sustainability. And tomorrow in the afternoon we have a session on the Leadership Institute. And the third group is the innovation projects. And after this session, we will have different sessions describing all the different innovation projects that are currently going on. And with those innovation projects, we work together with our members on bottlenecks that cannot be solved by individual companies, and we need the cooperation between groups of companies. Most of those activities are done by a global team, but when we are talking about the implementation of THESIS in Europe, the European office is in the lead. And because I'm not sure that everybody is aware what THESIS is, just a short description of the system. So THESIS is the Sustainability Improvement System. It's a system where we developed for all consumer product categories, in total 115. What are the main hotspots for that particular product category? How can you improve the performance on those sustainability hotspots? And how can you measure how different products score on those hotspots? That takes the full life cycle into account, all sustainability themes, stimulating innovation and continuous improvement. So not prescribing what to do, but more to measure the impacts of all the activities of the supply chain. We try to minimize cost by global harmonization, alignment with leading initiatives, and by scale. And the system is implemented by about 2,000 companies all over the world. Now, the main way how the system is implemented, you can see at the bottom of this slide. So retailers that are asking their brands to answer a set of KPIs for a particular product category. And then the brands can assemble the needed information from their suppliers. So that in the end, we get a good picture of the sustainability of a particular product category. So that's the background around THESIS. And our next speaker, Julia Chu from the Boots, as part of the Walgreens Boots Alliance, will tell us a bit more about the implementation of THESIS within the company. Julia is Senior Sustainability Manager at WBA and has more than 80 years of experience within the domain. She leads the global product sustainability initiatives at WBA and also leads the THESIS implementation program at the company. So Julia, welcome. Great to have you here in this session. Before we go in detail on the implementation, could you tell a bit more about the background of your company? Because I'm not sure that all attendants do know all the details.
Sure, thank you, Juan, and thank you for everyone attending this session. So my name is Julia Chiu, and I work for Walgreens Boots Alliance. So Walgreens Boots Alliance is a pharmacy-led health and well-being retail. We have more than 13,000 stores in 9 countries, and we have operations in 17 countries and directly employed with over 300 employees. So we have our retailers and wholesale brands, including Walgreens and During Red in the US, and Boots stores in the UK and Thailand as well. We also have multiple portfolio of long-established product brands, like global skincare brand, like the No. 7 brand, Soap and Glory, Botanic, Sleek, etc. And we also have our health and beauty line, including Boots Pharmaceuticals, over-the-counter remedies, and Sante and Sinclair. We also have numerous Walgreens own brand that's selling mainly in US in our Walgreens stores, including Nice, Food and Beverage, and Walgreens over-the-counter products, and complete home household goods, and also some seasonal items that's also under our own brand. So we have a very wide range of product category that we source globally. We often saying that so we source product, and we also sell product from a Halloween mask to a facial mask. That's why we have a very complex international supply chain. We involve relationship with numbers of suppliers globally in various areas. So this is us. Koen, you're on mute.
Thank you. It looks like a challenging task with so many product categories and such a huge company with global supply chains. Could you tell a bit more why you chose for THESIS, and how does that fit within your sustainability strategy?
Yeah, so we, as I said, we have a very complex supply chain. We cover a lot of products with different categories. And we also know that there's the most and the greatest critical sustainability risks and opportunities lies deep in the supply chain. So transparency is very important, and it's also becoming a business and consumer imperative. So it's our target to engage with our supplier to drive responsible sourcing practices throughout our supply chain to protect human rights and environmental issues as well. So we set up our goals in 2020 with the aim to build a transparent information platform for our own brand products to enhance the transparency of our high volume spent product supplier manufacturing practices, resources, and waste, as well as collecting material, ingredients level product specifications. We know that our competitors and our peers in the industries are increasingly becoming more open and transparent with their products and supply chain, which extended to digital platform to engage first-tier supplier and beyond their sustainability targets. So our engagement previously with our suppliers are mainly limited to tier 1 ethical audit program and asking them to meeting with the minimum product sustainability requirement. So back in 2018, our leadership in Asia initiated to develop a supply sustainability program. And we ran a small pilot program with a few Asia suppliers there. So after the first year of pilot, we find that the program is not really scalable to launch it globally to through our supply chain. So, and we know that an online platform with data collection platform, the analytic system and reporting and scoring mechanism is very important. So we try to leverage to avoid duplication in data collection process, especially a lot of our suppliers not only supplying for us, but for other similar retailers as well. So that's why back then we know that we need a tool which is ready to use, but to tailor a particular element in order to save internal resources on developing the program from scratch. So that's why we then needed to be expandable to our tier 1 supply, beyond our tier 1 supplier management and THESIS, which we have been running through our national brand supplier at Walgreens for a couple of years already, meets our needs.
Okay, yeah, I can imagine that scalability is an important issue for you, giving all those different product categories and the scale of the company. Yeah. Could you share a bit more about how you have implemented THESIS?
When we started it, we know that it's not like a quick win thing, even though it could be very quick as long as we already have suppliers already using the THESIS. So we look at it as a 3-year plan. So we took a 3 years plans approach. So we started to engage with our top 100 suppliers, and then 300 on year 2, and with the target on year 3 to becoming a part of the supplier onboarding process. So eventually we will have the majority of our suppliers onboarded in the program. So we just rolling it out to our top 100 supplier back in April, and we already got about 33 suppliers. We know that onboarded with the program, which because they previously worked with other retailers, and they just simply need to select WBA as their retailer to share their score. So that's a quick win for us within such a short time, within a month's time. And then we can get their sustainability score right away.
Yeah, it's great that you could reuse the data, because that would also prevent an administrative burden for your suppliers, that they can just use that information. And it's also great to hear that you have a multi-year plan with follow-ups in the coming 2 years. You just started, so it's a bit early to already show the results of what you're doing, but maybe you can already share some key learnings.
Yeah, so the biggest learning is actually it takes some time, especially to have leadership commitment. So the senior leadership, executive leadership commitment is very important in this process. And to get business alignment as well, because we wanted to roll it out as a global platform. To roll it out regionally doesn't help us to understand the true view of our supply chain. And we are very glad that we have strong leadership that's very supportive in it. And they also really wanted to do it. So it's more like a top-down approach. So when we are trying to engage the program with our sourcing team, who owns the direct relationship with those suppliers, they already, it's easier for them to buy in. And it's also very important to get your internal and external engagement piece, setting it right. It's not easy, and it's not just about telling them, explaining to them or requesting them to complete the task, but really demonstrating the true value of the program, which how they were both benefiting from it. I mean both the supplier and also the sourcing team, as well as the company.
Okay, yes, I think that creation of internal external engagement is really crucial in implementation projects. We also learned that from working with other companies. Could you tell a bit more on how you created that? How did you do that?
So starting from the top, basically starting from the most senior leadership, and you have to understand the program very, very well, understanding from your supplier as well, talk to your supplier who's already a member of it, and getting from both the supplier's view, especially, and also TSC will also help you to understand from the sourcing view, what's the general benefits for companies like us. But getting the supplier view is very, very important, because they are the one who's using it, and they are the one who's getting the score and benefiting a lot from it as well. And also creating the engagement piece of work with your colleagues is also very important, because when you are rolling it out to the supplier, and the suppliers, the ownership of the supplier relationship doesn't sit with myself, it sits with the individual sourcing team members. So having their buy-in, or having them to also understanding how this program will benefit for them to as a supplier selection is very crucial for them to push their supplier or to convince the supplier to join the program.
Okay. So thank you for that. I just checked if there are any questions, but I don't see any questions. So then I want to thank you for your contribution. I hope to be able to closely following what's happening in the coming years, and maybe next year and next summit you can explain a little bit more of the added value that the implementation had for you. So thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Then we will move to the last part of today, and then I will share my screen again. Make it a bit larger. And I have the honor to do that presentation myself. It's about the implementation of THESIS in Netherlands. So we started implementing the system already back in 2014. I think together with Walmart, we were one of the first projects with THESIS. And over the last 7 years, a lot of companies have been involved. So it's a very busy slide. It's because a lot of companies have been involved, and the way we implemented the system is quite different from other companies in the world, because we always took a collective approach. So we worked together with several retailers, catering organizations, wholesalers, developed a project, got in a lot of cases co-financing from the Dutch government, and then collectively agreed about the product categories that we wanted to assess. And in most cases, it was a limited number of product categories. And all the companies that were participating were sending the assessment sets to their suppliers. And because in a lot of cases, there was quite some overlap of suppliers, it was immediately clear for those suppliers that they could profit from the fact that the system is standardized, and not only one client was using the system, but several clients. So they could see the efficiency gain of that standardization and use the same reporting for several clients. Because the number of product categories was low, we could also have quite intensive conversations with the suppliers, have a lot of one-to-one meetings to see the results and see how we could follow up. Then in 2020, we scaled up. So in 1 year, we worked with nearly 25 different product categories. And we worked with the 4 companies that you can see on the top of the screen, which are the 2 biggest catering organizations and the 2 biggest wholesalers in the Netherlands. Also, 2 TSC members are participating in the project, Grodan and Unilever. And again, we will have support from the Dutch government. I will skip this one and just look at an example of the impact. In this case, it's a company called CSM. They participated in, I think, 2019. And based on the answering for one product category, a lot of improvements were made within the company. So around the process, they started a sustainability unit also in the European Union, and not only on global level. After they did the first assessment for the first product category, they were so interested to also see the results for other product categories in the benchmarking that I did it for a broad range of product categories. They made a lot of changes in the sustainability of the product around different product categories, and also had some spin-offs that had no direct relation with sustainability. So it led to optimization of the supply chain. And they also talked with their client about improving the healthiness of the product, and also made some improvements there, increasing fibers and decreasing salt. So because we were so intensively involved, we could also see a direct impact. And the last thing I want to explain about what we're doing in the Netherlands is that we're working not only with retailers, but also with wholesalers and catering. And also like to broaden the users even more. So working with financial partners. And what is really unique for the Netherlands, I think, is that we're also involved in the sustainable purchasing criteria of the Dutch government. So when they buy catering services, and the catering organization has been implementing the system of the Sustainability Consortium, or a similar system that works on continuous improvement, they get bonus points for tenders from the Dutch government. So that was all I wanted to share about what is happening in Netherlands. And I also see that we're coming already close to the hour. I'm just checking if we have any questions. No questions yet. So then I think it's time to come to a close to a session. I want to thank both speakers of today, Julia and Henk. Very interesting to hear something about your activities. Again, the slides will be shared, and also the session is recorded. Yeah, all that information will be shared with you. After this session, there are several other sessions. You have to go back to the program, and then you can go to the next session. As I told you, there are several sessions about innovation projects that we're doing. And the next session is a session on tracking geography of your supply chain and related sustainability issues. So about regional sustainability issues and how to address them. So thank you also the audience for attending this session. If you want to move to the next session, it's nearly time to leave. But before you leave, I would like to answer you the last poll. So please go back to the poll and see if we can, yeah, it's on the top, get some feedback on how you like this session. So please give your votes before you leave so that we also get some feedback if you enjoyed yourself. I see that we get reasonable good feedback, so thank you for that. Enjoy yourself in the rest of the day. If you still have some questions, I will still be available in the coming minutes. And for the others that want to continue with the other sessions of the summit, please do so and enjoy yourself. Thank you.